the whole of creation, and let's look at especially our planet. When it was created, it is created out of 5 elements, and there is an order of creation. And the first thing when the creation took place, what was created was space. Is neither finite nor it is an actual thing. It appears as that we see endlessly. The sky appears as blue, but it is not blue. But it appears as blue because of the play of the other elements. Space became the holding element. And when this vast space was created, in it rushed an energy to fill that space. Something has to be, container has to be filled. It was filled by an energy that came in, and that came in the form of wind or the air element. Okay, because it's a scientific fact on our planet that wherever there is space, air will come through that. So air is inside the room, air is outside the room. Air is in a glass, is outside a glass. Air is always present. So that became the energy provider element. Air is the one which provides energy everywhere. We breathe, and therefore we are alive. If this air was to stop, we wouldn't be able to breathe and we would die. So one is a container element, the other is a carrier element. And when the carrier came with bringing this energy, and this energy started to interact with each other, it created friction. So that friction of hitting against each other created sparks, and it created the fire element. So the third element came up as a result of that. And that fire element again is also, it's another form of energy, because it's come as energy through air, and intense energy became fire, and its nature is of intensity. It's intensely hot, and that heat we realize is important because that gives us all this vegetation, that gives a human body the power to digest all the food that is eaten. So this fire became a very important element of that. So it is also a carrier, and it carries, we see even in our ancient practices of Sanatana Dharma, that we use this as a carrier element by offering things into the fire. When we make offerings into it, that kind of is carried to the controllers or the elementals, and it carries that signal back. So it's an energy. So then when this energy came in, the fire heat came in, it started to create this, and heat started to rise up. When it went up, it interacted with the cooler aspect of the air element, and that created condensation. So the hot and cold, when it came together, when the hot started to cold, it started to form into water. And then because that water got in, it came down. And therefore the fourth element came like that. So the water element came in. Water element also is now, because it's the same air actually coming through. Air became fire, air became water, and that air, it started to fall through, and therefore it holds energy. And we've seen that if water, it responds to energy, it responds to love energy, it responds to fear energy, it responds to anger. So it carries with it because it's a very strong carrier. It's gone through a process of heating and cooling. And so when it comes down, it is cold, because that's how it is formed. And that water is essential, because that water is essential even in the human body, because the whole of blood and the water which is required in our muscles, in our tissues, to keep our skin alive, and water is important. So water, and that's how, the oceans got filled, and there's a whole story behind this whole creation. And it's an energy element. And we see the power that the waves have, we see the power that the rivers have. We are able to tap that power and make electricity, right? We are able to tap now the power of wind also. We are able to harness that energy, and that also we are using for electrification. We are able to tap the sun's energy, the heat energy, the thermal energy. We create power out of that also. So that means this is all the energy principles coming through. And then this water, when it hit, because of the law of gravity, it started to also solidify and it started to mix with the other metals and minerals that were there. And with those minerals, the earth started to get formed, the crust of the earth. Right? So the element earth, or the element which is the gross part of the, so there is a holding container at the top, which is sky or space. There is a holding container at the bottom, between which the law of gravity applies, and that is the element earth. So that's how the 5 elements have come up. And this is the grounding element. We use earth for grounding. Why is it grounding? Because it is the bottom element. It's the holder at the bottom. Sky is the elevating element. And within these two containers, the top container, the sky, and the bottom container, the earth, all the energy interacts. Some energy gets diffused in the sky, the other excess energy we have to diffuse in the ground, and we call it grounding. Right? The 3 other elements are the energy carriers. Basically, it is the wind or the air, and the air by its nature has become fire, and the fire has become, through its nature, has become water. These 3 are the carriers of energy, and we are harnessing this energy. And this energy, these 5 elements are present in everything that exists on this planet. They are in the plants, they are in the trees, they are in the animals, they are in human beings, they are in us, and they are outside us. Anywhere, if any of them goes missing, we cannot survive. If there is no heat, after some time we will all die, everything will get frozen. We'll go into the ice age. If there is no water, again, our body needs water. Everything is made up of water. If we don't get water, again we will die. If we don't get any air, of course, we will not last more than a minute and we'll suffocate. So, our body is constituted with this, and our body cannot perform any of its actions in the absence of these also. And isn't that the definition of God? God is something which is all pervasive. It is always around us and it is within us. But since it's divided into 5, it's like the 5 lieutenants of God. It is the 5 aspects of consciousness, you can say it. Consciousness is the controlling entity, but it has 5 aspects called space, air, fire, water, and earth. That's really what it is about, and we are doing this work on our mind, right? Why? Because we are conditioned. And look at something that these new machines that are coming up. What is it called? The e-machines. What is this? When you go, you have not seen that, but when you go there are computer screens there. And in that, colored images are coming through continuously, as like a series of matrix programs. And they are creating a frequency of color, and there's an energy coming through that. So if you just lie down over there and sit and relax, it starts to do something it starts to heal your aura. It's a deep healing process that starts off. What is it they're doing? They're actually working on your elementals. Life is EFV. Energy, frequency, vibration. So there is a vibration coming from that, and they're working on a certain frequency which resonates with us. Everything is happening concurrently. In this human body, we have a certain limitations. We can only hear sounds of a certain frequency. We can only see things with our eyes which are of a certain frequency, because it has a limitation. Our body has a limitation. But that doesn't mean that the planet has that limitation. So right next to us here, something else is going on. There is other worlds also. That's why we are able to communicate and things happen, right? Nobody has to come from anywhere. It is not because the world exists somewhere else. You would have heard about, now people are beginning to understand that there are not universes, there are multiverses, which means multiple realities existing at the same time. Time is not linear. Time is concurrent. You may be in many lifetimes at the same time. So everything is like this. So we constantly are evolving to understand this, and that's why we are saying that your mind is such a limitation. Because the mind has grasped through this reality that this is what it is. And unless it is able to silence itself and let go of this shrieking mind which is forcing things on you, it's actually a colonial ruler. You are enslaved by this colonial ruler, which is forcing you to do certain things. It doesn't allow you the possibility of freedom, to be able to see things as they are. Because you keep listening to it. How are you a slave? Because you keep listening to it, you're dictated by it, it rules you. The mind rules us. And you see, no matter how much serious we are in the morning, after some time of our travel, initially we hold on to it. After that we start losing it. We start joking, we start giving answers back. We start to show our smartness, because that smartness comes from our mind. I keep observing, I keep seeing this degradation of that awareness. How during the day, as we spend more hours together, I see it starting to slip. And I see the comments start happening, the labeling starting to happen. I watch it and I realize, okay, this is how it is. Till you learn to really be aware. And it'll come with this constant reminder. So this is happening. It is concurrent. It is a limitation that we have put on ourselves. We were told this, we believed it. We were conditioned to believe this, and therefore we are in that. Now we are saying, we understand there is something else and we want freedom. We want to actually see it. We want to experience something beyond. But you can't experience it because you've placed a limitation on it. Unless you start believing in it and you start silencing it, how will you see it? So that's where we are. And that's why we say, if you are not able to understand, just follow someone and then follow blindly. Your mind doesn't allow you to. So that's our challenge. We want to do it ourselves. We cannot follow somebody. So we'll have to do something ourselves only. And then that can happen only when you see the futility of what we are doing. It is like a no-win game. This is a match you can never win if you keep doing this. You have to do something radically different, like I did. And that resolve can come only from within. And this is the understanding.